first of all, be proactive. Colleges aren't just going to try and seek you out. I mean, like you touched on earlier, we get hundreds and hundreds of emails a day, whether it's from our administration, our university, recruits. So it's hard for us to go actively seek kids on a daily basis. Be proactive, and if you really want to go to that school, whether or not the coach invites you, go on a visit. And do your research. We do our research on our end with, calling club coaches, high school coaches, personal trainers, whatever. The kids can do the same thing. Families can do the same thing. Every school has a website. Go out, look at the website. You kind of know what you're interested in studying. So look at the college. Does it have my major? Is it in a good location? All that comes into play. So being proactive, doing your homework, all that kind of stuff, I think is the best advice I can give anybody.
Welcome to the Play College Soccer Podcast. This is a quick and dirty, direct-to-the-point rundown of important topics regarding your college recruiting process. I'm Coach Mike, former college coach, now directing a club, and I run this podcast to help educate parents and players about the reality of college recruiting and playing college soccer. If you want more information, check out my site, playcollegesoccer.org. That's .org. Today we're talking to Chris Jones, head women's soccer coach at Washburn University in Topeka, Kansas. Chris is an energetic, entrepreneurial type of guy, and we talk about some important things like the D1 only myth, being versatile as a player, and how to pester college coaches. Pay attention, take notes, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey, thanks for taking the time to do this.
Yeah, no worries.
So let's just start and give a little background about like where you are or how'd you got there, and what's going on with your program and that sort of stuff.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm from Oklahoma originally. I played college soccer for 2 years in Oklahoma, and then due to the coach kind of going crazy, it turned out to be not a good situation for me, so I ended up transferring schools. Well, I transferred to the University of Oklahoma, where they don't have, none of the Big 12 has NCAA men's soccer, but they have a club team system where it's basically run like the NCAA minus like scholarships and restrictions and all that kind of stuff. And my thought process was, a friend of mine played on the team, and I figured I played for it for a year, so I didn't lose anything, and then I'd transfer out the next fall. Well, ironically, I fell absolutely in love with it and everything like that. And honestly, we were more talented than my college team, so I decided to stick it out. The next semester, I became the president, started running the team, had an opportunity to be a practice player for the women's team at OU for my remaining 3 years there, and got to go through a coaching change, kind of got to see, the ins and outs of that. And then, my last year there, the coach kind of brought me behind the scenes and kind of showed me the ins and outs of coaching behind the scenes a little bit. And, I fell in love with it. So I started applying for jobs. And Fort Hays gave me Craig Shaw at Fort Hays gave me the opportunity to start my coaching career. Was out there for 2 years. Absolutely loved it. He taught me, basically everything I know. And ironically, I got this job at Washburn, which is in the same conference 2 years later. So that's kind of how I got started in the whole college coaching realm.
And that's cool because it's a totally different, and when you talk about club soccer, so what a lot of people don't know is that there is a club soccer scene almost with, well, at least with the bigger schools that can support it.
Yes.
And I went to a small school out in L.A., only about 3,000 people, and they had a club soccer team, and they also had a club men's volleyball team, because men's volleyball is a program that doesn't often get picked up as well. So that there is an avenue. And I had a former player at UC Irvine who was good enough to play at schools, but she just didn't want to make that commitment, so she played club soccer. So so I don't think people realize that you might not have to give it up entirely if you still want to play. There's still even that level outside of I guess NCAA or NAIA or whatever the governing body is, that I'm assuming it wasn't near the commitment that the athletic scholarship, actual team position was, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I sat down with my I guess vice president of the club, and we kind of sat down and kind of went over, we wanted OU to be on the map, club soccer wise, obviously to get the kids, kind of show the university that, we're not just a one-off club. We're not just, out there having fun. But at the same time, we practice 3 times a week. If you couldn't make it, you couldn't make it, whether it's a job, class, tests, anything. I mean, we weren't really, demanding on your time, except for, we hope that you can make games, but it is what it is,
But it is more competitive than intramurals. This is not like, I don't want to give it probably wasn't show up when you can. It was like, we want to make a serious commitment to do this, but we're not going to, go crazy if.
No, that's exactly right. And a lot of people attribute club sports to intramurals, and it's totally different. I mean, we had to go through the licensing department to get uniforms, and we had to go through the athletic department to get the right color crimson and stuff like that. Like, we had to wear OU colors, or as close to OU colors as we could, without being part of the athletic department. And, we treated it basically like an NCAA team. And you do have to pay dues. That's just the nature of the beast, so the club can support itself. But, it's worth it. I mean, paying for uniforms, for travel, for basically anything that we do, the dues go towards that.
And so you kind of started that, right? You started the club soccer program, or helped?
I didn't start it. I kind of when I was there, it was kind of a status quo. It was kind of my first semester playing was just kind of, well, we're good. We're not going to really take it anywhere. We're just going to keep it as is. When I took over, me and my best friend, who is my vice president, we were like, you know what, let's make it bigger than it is. And so what we did was we ended up making basically 2 teams where we could pull, the best players from each team to go to the regional tournament, the national tournament, all that kind of stuff. And we put 2 teams in the league, and hopefully, in our minds it was one of the teams is going to make it to the finals, if not both. So why not, And let's increase the club on campus and get people aware, kind of thing. And then we would go around in these sororities and fraternities and kind of promote ourselves. We did a little promotion on campus and all that kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff that I kind of did when I took over. Not necessarily started, but I kind of revamped it and took it to the next level.
Now, what about arranging a schedule or travel and all that? How did that work?
So it's called the Oklahoma College Collegiate Soccer League, and we have a commissioner and all of that kind of stuff. So we basically, in the fall and the spring, we had to register everybody through the Soccer Association in Oklahoma, and then, based on that, he kind of came up with a schedule. And then as far as travel goes, it was kind of just like, hey, who can drive this weekend? Let's carpool. Let's caravan out there and then caravan back. I mean, we didn't really travel anywhere far until the regional tournament happened. And then it was, again, who can drive, book hotels, get fees for hotels, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and the reason why I want to kind of point this out is I talked to players about kind of investigating who this coach is, because coaches are not the same at all. And I just want to highlight, like, someone that kind of is aggressive and determined and a little bit entrepreneurial at building even a club soccer program, that might be a value in it, well, it is a value as you build your program, but that's the sort of insight that I think players need to look at, that, you took the initiative to make something happen. You're going to have that same initiative, for whatever else you're doing, right? So just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying definitely. I mean, you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. So now you're at Washburn, and you've been there you had one season, right?
Yes, I'll be there. I'm coming up on almost 1 year exactly.
Okay. So talk about Washburn is in Topeka.
Yes.
It's small school, big school. What's the program like before you inherited it? Where are you building it?
So Washburn's kind of a middle-of-the-road university. We're about 7,500 students. I mean, not small, but not too big. We're actually in the process of growing as far as building on campus. We're in the process of building new dorms. They'll be done this fall. We're in the capital city of Kansas, so, big city. We're 45 minutes to an hour from Kansas City, depending on where you want to go. 45 minutes from Sporting KC Stadium or Children's Mercy Park. Where the program was, it kind of took a turn for the worst, a couple years back. The coach that was here started the program 10 years ago, 11 years ago, and it just kind of seemed like he kind of lost the passion or got burnt out with, being on the road recruiting, talking to kids, getting them here, and then going through a grueling season for 3.5 months. And then, you only get basically a month off, and then you start spring season. So it kind of felt like, because being at Fort Hays, we played them twice a year, and it just felt like he kind of got burnt out, didn't really have the passion as much. So coming in, obviously being a young head coach, and obviously probably one of the youngest in the nation kind of thing, I wanted to bring the energy back to the program. And I'm a very energetic guy. I'm go, 24/7. And so I thought I would bring the energy back to the program, have the girls enjoy coming to practice every day. I mean, that was my number one goal. And to show them that even though they didn't have a very good season in 2014, they're not as bad as their record showed.
Mm.
And again, that just building that belief and all that kind of stuff. So, we took a step in the right direction this year. I mean, obviously going 5-9-5 necessarily isn't a good thing, but
your games were tight though.
Right. Yeah. Every game we were competitive, and that's when in my interview process, that's why I asked the athletic director. I said, what are you looking for in the new coach? Are you expecting a 10-win season right out the gate? What's the deal? And he said, just be competitive. And I said, I can do that. First year, I can do that. That's not really a problem. Obviously, taking the number one team in the nation to 1-0. They scored in the 76th minute, and then catching them in the conference tournament again, losing 2-1, by 1 goal. So, for us, for the program, it was good for us to show that we can compete with the best in the nation.
So, and I think this is important too, is kids look at programs, and first of all, like, I don't think families realize it is a lot of heavy lifting behind the scenes to run a program. It is not just about the roster and the schedule. It is, coaches spend far more time on the phone, and there's budget issues, and there's scheduling, and then there's the administrative issues and grades and everything outside of it just to get on the field to run a training session. So for someone to be at a location for 10 years, and we don't know the whole story, but it's it's more common than not to kind of lose that fire, which is totally understandable. But as kids look at programs like someone like you that's coming in with a lot of passion, you were competitive your first year, maybe not, the results didn't match up, but the games, the actual how you played, and I think some kids might be attracted to, hey, I want to go where this coach is building something, as opposed to I just want to go where they're constantly winning.
No, I'm definitely. I mean, obviously it's hard to recruit off a 0-win season. So I've been selling recruits on, well, not necessarily selling, I guess, telling them, like, you can help me turn around this program. I'm doing everything that I can day and night to make this program a nationally recognized program, and I'm going to recruit you to bring you in so you can help me do that.
Yeah, so it does take a specific personality that sees the value in building something to a competitive level, as opposed to just, well, I just want to be on the competitive team already.
Right.
And here's you guys do play. This year I saw you playing Kansas State, which is D1.
Yes.
So for those, I think that's a pretty cool thing, because a lot of players are under the impression that, well, D1 is much better than D2. Well, now you have your chance to actually go out and prove it. If you're competitive, maybe you get a goal, maybe even you bunker down and get a win. I don't even know if you need to bunker down against them. I don't know what they're about. But that kind of dissolves that whole myth that, well, D1 is automatically better than D2. Can you speak to that sort of myth?
Yeah, it's funny because, we do a lot of college talks at camps and talk to a lot of student athletes in groups and stuff. And, there's good and bad teams at every level, at every division. There's a lot of D1s out there that, we could beat. There's also a lot of NAIA schools that could beat us. And that's just the reality of it. But with D1, they're flashy, they're big, they can spend all this money to get their name out there, to, be nationally relevant. They got TV deals, a lot of them with football. Football is a huge marketing tool for a lot of those universities. But what a lot of kids don't realize is that there's maybe 10% of Division I schools that will win a national title. With Division II, NAIA, Division III, junior college, it could happen to anybody. And that's what a lot of people don't realize, is that you can go play Division I and never see an NCAA tournament. Because with Division I, as far as, making the tournament, a lot of it has to do with winning a conference tournament at large bids. With Division II, it's totally different. It's all about regional rankings, where you finish in your region, and then the conference tournament. So, things are run differently, but with Division I, Division II, we just don't get a whole lot of TV time, I guess is the best way to put it, to really put our name out there nationally.
Yeah, but you make a very good point in terms of the potential access to championship tournaments and championship play, because, and it's I think, without being disrespectful, I think NAIA and D2 are pretty close. I mean, obviously there's going to be some teams and programs that are much better run or better funded, but in terms of, like you said, NAIA operates off power rankings, and which is different. So it's not just a matter of winning your league to move on. But that's a very good point for kids that want to experience a championship type or potential championship experience, that there is more opportunity, I think, or more access for opportunity at the NAIA and D2 levels. And I never thought about how you said, but, you might compete at D1, and I'm thinking of the West Coast, like University of San Diego or some of these decent D1 programs, but when you get deeper into tournaments, there's the vast difference between the upper echelon D1 and the mid-level D1 is exposed, right? I mean,
Yep.
It's not like March Madness where you see many Cinderella stories.
Right. It's very hard for Cinderella stories in the tournament at the Division I level.
Yeah. Why do you think it's so accessible at the D2 and NAIA levels?
Yeah, that's a good question. Things are just run differently. With Division II, like I said, everything's run on regional rankings, and then you turn around and you play your regional opponents. So you kind of know who you're going up against from the get-go. And then, you continue to play. And even once you get to, the Sweet 16, Elite 8, you're still playing teams that you've heard about, you watched, all this, that, and the other. And with Division II, we're all, at least the upper echelon of Division II, they all have, the same kind of caliber players, which is, D1 players that decided to go to D2. And, it's just, we can't get those kids like a Mallory Pugh or something like that, obviously. But with Division I, there's a huge divide between a Mallory Pugh and then, the next tier down kind of thing. So I think accessible-wise, I think it's not easier necessarily for Division II to win a national championship, but there's a much better chance as far as, a team maybe that a one-off chance that they make it to the national tournament can go deep in the national tournament.
Yeah. And you still do see that some of the same programs are in the national tournament every year, right? So there's teams that have built kind of that into their culture, but you also every year you see these new programs, and they might hang around for a year or two, and you're right, there are players that can make a bigger difference. I try to tell my players, especially on the women's side where there's not a lot of opportunity past college, this is your last 4 years. So do you want to spend it in a big program where you're getting very little, if any, playing time, or maybe you take it to a different level, D2, and you're kind of the star. You're kind of really, maybe not the star, but you're one of the better players perhaps, and you're contributing and playing, and you can see, particularly maybe in your situation where you're looking to rebuild, if they come and help you rebuild, you can see tangibly, hey, last year we had 5 wins, this year we had 12, we're competing second in conference or whatever the results were. You can really see that and participate in that, which to me, in my personality, that would be more exciting than just
right. And when you bring kids on visits and to campus and stuff like that, you kind of have to gauge, you kind of have to put it on their shoulders. What do you want out of your college career? What do you want out of college in general and stuff like that? And so really a lot of it is up to the student athlete. It's not really up to us. It's up to the student athlete and what kind of school they want to go to.
Do you feel like they've thought through that question?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, myself included, when I was getting recruited, everybody wants to go Division I from the get-go. It's big, it's flashy. You get all the stuff. You get all the recognition for playing Division I. But then as the recruiting process goes on, and depending on your talent level, you kind of sit back and assess. Well, maybe I'm not a Division I player. Well, I'll look at Division II or NAI, and start looking at smaller schools and the programs and all that kind of stuff. So, kids obviously, being at a young age, watching TV, you see Division I thrown in your face, which to be fair, they have the resources to do that. I'm not by any means looking down on that, and they're like, oh, I want to go to this school or that school because I see it on TV, or my parents are went there for college or huge fans of this school, so I'm going to look at that school first. And then reality kind of sets in, okay, well, if I'm not getting contacted by these schools, now I have to look at other options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I call that's like we're branded so early on with college football, and really, unless you do some serious research, you're only going to be able to name big football schools.
Right.
And unless you live in, Kansas City or Topeka or no one. I was talking to a friend last night about what I'm doing with the podcast, and she's asking, and she lives overseas, and she's asking who I'm interviewing, because when I said I'm interviewing college coaches, she's thinking Notre Dame, she's thinking Duke basketball, and I'm like, no. I mean, she would never hear of Washburn, and I told her most Americans living here never heard of Washburn.
Right.
And that's where I like that you said that. We get so branded right away with what is accessible to us, like, oh, well, Notre Dame and Michigan, and yeah, those are great schools, and I think it'd be a great experience. The irony with going to a big school, particularly for soccer athletes who want that big football tailgating experience, is that you're playing your sport in the same season. So the likelihood of you having a weekend off where you can go to watch the football game is slim to none. So probably not not the reason to pick a big school like that is for that experience. So
right.
while we're talking about the players, who are you looking for? How do you recruit? How do people get on your radar? Is it more incoming to you, or are you reaching out a lot, or what's going on there?
It's a little bit of both. Obviously, reaching out and contacting us is probably the best way for me to get you on my radar.
Mm-hmm.
But when I go out to tournaments and I happen to see a player that I like that maybe hasn't emailed me or something like that, I'll reach out to him. Basically, reaching out to me, telling me who you are, obviously looking at, tournament websites. If I'm at this tournament, reaching out to me, telling me when your games are, who you play for, your number, your colors, all that kind of stuff. But basically, it's a little bit of give and take, I'd say.
Okay. And how would kids find out what tournaments, what showcases and events you're going to?
So usually every showcase tournament website will have like college coaches attending section on the website, and you can just go there and look at who's attending, and they usually have like a little information about the school, their email, phone number for the coach, and who's attending, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So when kids are interested and they're contacting you, let's say they're out of state by maybe a region. So they're in Florida, or I don't know how broad, but let's just assume they can't quite get to you on campus. Do you watch video? Is video a tool you utilize?
Yes, video is a very big tool for us, especially with out-of-state kids, because we can see in a video, we can see their skill level, we can see what type of player they are, this, that, and the other. Now, certain videos are better than others. Obviously, with the video, you want the kid to wow you probably the first minute or so, and then after that, you can kind of put in whatever you want. But if you're putting in something where you're losing the ball 3 or 4 times in the first 30 seconds, I'm probably going to delete the video and delete your email. But I'd rather have you wow me in the first minute so that it catches my interest, and then I'll watch the rest of it. And then what I do is I usually email them and ask them for, do you have any game film, half a game, quarter game, a whole game, and that way I can see you play outside of the highlights kind of thing.
Okay, yeah, and you bring up a good point. Like, you do want to lead with your best foot. Coaches know that you're going to make a mistake, but they want to see, because you're probably going through a bunch of these. They want to know right away, are they wasting their time or not? So if you display, some weak skills up front, there's nothing to lead them to believe that there's anything more than that on the video. So they're not going to waste their time. That's a very good point.
Right. And also with the video, and parents in all this, whoever's taking the video kind of get, other than a professional video service, get caught up in zooming in too much.
Mm-hmm.
Zoom out and let me see not only what you do with the ball, but what you do without the ball in that highlight. I don't need 2 or 3 minutes afterwards. I just need 10, 15, 20 seconds after you play the ball or win a header or win a tackle or something, just so I can see what you do right after you do that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's very interesting because last night I was watching some recruiting videos just to see what people were doing, like how they were kind of putting them together. And some are flashy, but there was this one center midfielder who it would cut as soon as he played a ball in, it would cut out. So you didn't see if it actually connected. You didn't see his movement afterwards, whether he was making a strong run to participate or holding So it was a little as a coach, I was a little frustrated. I don't think families would ever pick up on that, but it was a little bit like, well, that's only the beginning of the play. How did you finish the play?
Exactly.
Yeah. So on average, how many kids are you working with, recruiting-wise? I think families think that coaches are just waiting for an email to pop in.
Right. Right now for 2017 and 2018 combined, I'm working with about 30.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm actively recruiting, interested in, all that kind of stuff. It really just depends on the year. Obviously, women's soccer is a lot more in advance with recruiting than men's soccer is. So, I have 4 committed for 2017. I have 3 offers out there. I have 2 that want to come on visits. I have 3 visits set up for 2018. So, it's a process, but we're not talking to hundreds and hundreds of kids that we're actively recruiting. We narrow it down pretty quickly.
And without disclosing, if you don't want, how do you narrow it down? Is it just a matter of they're just not a fit academically, they're gone, they're not a fit athletically, or how does that work?
A little bit of both. Academics is huge, especially with scholarship money and all that kind of stuff. Academics, talent-wise, are they going to be a fit for the way I coach? Are they going to be a fit for the way we play? What position am I recruiting? Do I even need your position? A lot of factors come in play in how we narrow it down. And we're never really done recruiting. Like when we say that we have all these girls or guys committed, ready to go, we're never really done. We're always looking for that player that will help our program take the next step.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. And you brought up so let's talk how do you coach? How do you like to play? Talk more specifically about that.
Yeah. So basically, my philosophy is, I put a lot on my players' shoulders because they're the ones that have to play the game. They're the ones that have to practice this, that, and the other. I can set them up for success. It's whether or not they want to take it on. So I coach in a very fun, want to say fun manner where, I give the kids the tools to be successful. It's whether or not they are going to accept those tools or not. Mm-hmm. Our style of play, we're a very high-paced possession-style team. I like to get the ball forward as quickly as possible, but I like to connect the lines within that possession. So I don't just lump the ball forward and we run and track it down, and hopefully we can get on the end of it. I like to play through the midfield, I like to play, our outside backs. I call those auxiliary forwards, get them as high up the field as possible. And once we lose it, we're a high press, win the ball in our attacking third, go score a goal kind of team. Obviously I'm a very energetic guy, so I like my team to play with a lot of energy.
So your interesting point here. So you use your outside backs a lot in the attack, right?
Yes.
So they're probably going to need to be a little bit pacey and have a little bit of confidence in the ball, which
yes.
I don't know if families know this a lot, but a lot of times, and this is not uncommon for coaches to like to attack out of the back, and so the personality you might be looking for to fill that position may not be an actual outside back through her club or high school career. Like, a lot of times people will transition a attacking player who is often pacey and aggressive with the ball into that outside back position. So maybe you could speak to like versatility, because your how you like to play, particularly with the outside back and whatever else you're doing, that's not just a typical outside back.
Right, and with versatility, it's hard because when we're recruiting, we kind of look at somebody and we say, okay, maybe you play a winger or maybe you play a center mid position, but I can train you at outside back.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we look at outside backs and we think, okay, you're a good outside back, but maybe you're not getting forward enough, but you're good enough, and I want you on my team. I can train you to get you forward through the way we practice, the way we play, all that kind of stuff. So, and honestly, youth coaches are doing a lot better with that in particular with outside backs, is allowing them to get forward a lot more, which, when I was growing up, it was, you're a defender, you stay, half line is your basically line of confrontation, this, that, and the other. And so, I give a lot of credit to the youth coaches. As the game evolves, the youth coaches and the clubs, youth clubs and all that kind of stuff are evolving with it as well.
Yeah, and I think to drive the point home is you're looking at players not for necessarily how and where they're playing on their club team as you watch them, but you're looking for those personalities and traits and how that fits into what you have and what you're doing.
Yeah, basically. I mean, we can look at obviously there's tens of coaches at most games, and we're all watching just the game, and if one player stands out, catches our eye or something, and if you're a good player, we're going to sit there and go, okay, maybe you play forward, but we can convert you as an outside back just on your personality, your traits, how you fit into our system, how your play fits into our system, this, that, and the other. So if you're a good player and we like you, we can usually picture you playing somewhere that maybe you're not playing in your club team, but at the college level, we see you being successful at certain positions.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think sometimes people think, well, I'm a forward, I'm going to play forward, and that, you might find a program that needs a forward, but there's other opportunities there. If you're willing to be versatile, you can fit into a lot more systems and be more valuable, and then thereby have more opportunities to play at different colleges.
Definitely.
So you mentioned the youth soccer system. Let's talk about that. Do you find that there's anything as you work with players, and you're relatively young, you don't have decades of experience, but you've certainly seen enough players to know, is there anything that's kind of missing from these seniors that are leaving and joining now the next level that the youth soccer and youth clubs systems should be able to solve, whether it's just a mental aspect or a technical component? What's your thought on that?
That's a tough question. I mean, technically I think most youth clubs do a great job of preparing the kids. Technically, with the ball at their feet. I think the one component I think that could get better, I guess, in your terms is missing, would be the tactical component, as far as maybe different systems of play, because every college plays a different system of play or a different formation or something like that. But the other side to that is that, youth clubs only get their kids 2 or 3 times a week, so it's really hard to sit there and go over tactics, shadow play, all that kind of stuff, because, one, kids don't want to do it, especially at the youth club level, where in college, we work with them every week, all week long. So we can touch on that stuff and video breakdown and tactic talk and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's one component that I think that's definitely lacking as far as, being able to do that more often with the kids. Usually the coaches are like, we're going to play the system, and this is going to be how we play. Well, in college, we might play one formation for 2 weeks, and then we come up against an opponent where we need to play another formation another time.
Yeah.
So I think that's the big thing, I think, not necessarily missing, but one thing that I think could get better.
And you might play, more than one system in a game, depending on, the how the game's going. Maybe you get a goal against an opponent that's clearly better than you, and you need a bunker in, so you might shift to 4 or 5 in the back.
Right. No, I totally agree with you.
Is there any sort of advice that that you can give families that are starting out with the recruiting process that you feel would be helpful to them?
The biggest thing is just for the kids and the families, first of all, be proactive. Colleges aren't just going to try and seek you out. I mean, like you touched on earlier, we get hundreds and hundreds of emails a day, whether it's from our administration, our university, recruits. So it's hard for us to go actively seek kids on a daily basis. So it's be proactive, and if you really want to go to that school, whether or not the coach invites you, go on a visit. If it's feasible, go on a visit and do your research. We do our research on our end with, calling club coaches, high school coaches, personal trainers, whatever. The kids can do the same thing. Families can do the same thing. Every school has a website. Go out, look at the website. You kind of know what you're interested in studying. So look at the college. Does it have my major? Does it have the thing I want to go to or study? Is it in a good location? All that comes into play. So being proactive, doing your homework, all that kind of stuff, I think is the best advice I can give anybody.
Cool. And when it comes to contact and being proactive, I totally agree. They need to take responsibility to get in contact with coaches. Some kids feel that, they'll get stymied because they sent an email to you already. And they don't want to bother you by sending another email. What would your response be to that?
I'll pester. If you're interested in the program and you are dead set on that program, keep emailing the coach. Keep on the coach, because we have so many things going on that we may see your email and we want to respond, and then all of a sudden, we have to go to this meeting or we have to do this, that, and the other, and we kind of forget about responding even though we want to. So just keep on the coach. Keep emailing the coach. I mean, usually most coaches are good people that they will either respond to you at some point or tell you, hey, I'm not interested. And so just keep on the coach. I mean, that's what I would do.
Yeah, and it probably, to some extent, actually helps you as a coach more, because it reminds you, and you're able to, when you have time, you're able to respond rather than trying to go back and dig out that one email out of probably now thousands. And, that's just probably not feasible.
Exactly. And, with us, if we keep getting an email from Susie, every week or something like that, we'll be like, oh, Susie's emailing again. Oh, I need to take a look at her profile, her video, whatever. And we will eventually, and then we'll sit down and evaluate, can she help my program, and then kind of go from there.
Right. So I love that you said pester. I mean, because that's exactly how I feel. Like, get after it. Make sure that they recognize that you really want to be a part of this program. It's not for the weak at heart where you send one email and then you sit back and wait for the coach, because that will just never happen.
Right. Or if you're waiting for the coach to email you, it's very rare that a coach will email you just out of the blue if you haven't emailed him or he hasn't seen you play or anything like that.
I'm excited you said that, because the advice coming out, and I'm up in South Dakota now, and the advice coming out of even the bigger clubs here in South Dakota, which there are not many, so people will know who I'm talking about, their advice is wait till you're a senior, and if you're good enough, coaches will find you. Which I don't know about you, but not many coaches are traveling to South Dakota to look for the next diamond in the rough. And even if they had the budget to travel, they're not going to come out to South Dakota. So that's a point I'm driving home. Like, you've got to contact the coaches and not wait for them to find you. Right.
And, especially in the women's game, too early is never a bad thing. If you're a sophomore, depending on who you're emailing, if you're a sophomore or freshman, junior, whatever, look at the list of coaches that are going to be at your tournament and email them anyway. Because of NCAA rules, we may or may not be able to email you back or talk to you or this, that, and the other. But more often than not, if you email the coach, he will put you on the list to watch you play, at least a little bit.
I really appreciate you coming on, and I'm kind of really excited to see how this season goes for you. I'm always excited to see a program that's building and moving forward. And I also think Topeka is a great location for some of my players because of the proximity to some bigger cities, but also it sounds like Topeka itself isn't massively overwhelming, right? It's not a
No, it really isn't. Like, it's a capital city, but you don't feel like you're in the capital city.
Yeah. So I appreciate your time, and maybe we can touch base like after the season and talk about, the program again, or in the spring or sometime. Not to be, a burden, but I think it'd be great to catch up, especially with, you're building your program.
No, definitely. I'd be definitely open to that.
Awesome. Well, good luck to you, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed it. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So that's our time with Chris. Again, if you're interested in what Chris is doing over at Washburn University, you can contact him. His email is chris.jones, that's chris.jones, at washburn.edu, washburn.edu. You also call him 785-670-1756. Chris Jones, head women's soccer coach at Washburn University in Topeka, Kansas. Thanks for listening to the Play College Soccer podcast. If you need any help, please go to our site, playcollegesoccer.org, where we've assembled plenty of helpful resources for you. Until next time, I'll see you.